Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you back to a night that changed the way I look at the world forever. A night I wish I could erase, a night that still creeps into my dreams and leaves me staring at the ceiling until dawn. This isn't just a story. This is a warning. This is a truth wrapped in the shadow of darkness, something I lived through and barely walked away from. And I'm telling it here today not to scare you for the thrill of it, but because someone needs to hear it. Maybe it'll be you. It was the summer of 2017. I was 24, working a dead-end job, trying to piece together who I was and where I was going. That night, I had driven down to visit a friend in another city, about 2.5 hours away. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and I stayed later than I meant to. Laughter stretched into the night, and by the time I got back on the highway, it was almost midnight. I remember looking at the glowing digits on my dashboard. 12:03 a.m. I wasn't worried. I'd made late-night drives before. In fact, I enjoyed them. Fewer cars, clear roads, the hum of my engine under the stars. There's something about the way the world falls quiet after midnight, like it's holding its breath. I didn't realize that night would feel like the world exhaled all its warmth and safety and left me alone with something I still can't quite explain. About an hour into the drive, I noticed I was low on gas. Stupid of me, I should have filled up before leaving, but I had been in a rush. I passed one exit, then another, both with signs for gas, but the stations looked dark. Closed. I kept driving, watching the needle drop lower and lower. Finally, about 30 miles out from home, I saw it. A glowing red and white sign. Gas, 24 hours, flickering in the distance. I pulled off the highway into a small, near-empty lot. The place looked like it had been standing since the 70s. One of those tiny stations with 2 old pumps, an air machine, and a convenience store that looked too quiet to be open. But the lights inside were on, buzzing, and there was a dim glow behind the dirty glass. I pulled up to the pump, left the engine running for a second, looked around. No other cars. No one inside that I could see. But I figured someone had to be working if the place was open. I turned off the engine and got out. The moment I stepped out of the car, I felt something. You know that feeling when the air just changes? Like you're being watched? Like something around you isn't quite right, but you can't put your finger on it? That's what hit me. I brushed it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. I mean, it's just a gas station. Just a quick fill-up. But something deep in my gut was screaming at me to get back in the car and leave. Still, I slid my card into the pump. Denied. Tried again. Denied. I looked at the store. The neon open sign flickered, barely clinging to life. I told myself I'd just pay inside. Get it over with. As I walked up to the door, I noticed something odd. The door was propped open with a small brick, but there was no sound coming from inside. No radio, no television, no hum of a fridge. Just silence. I stepped in. The smell hit me first, stale, metallic, like rust and something sour. The kind of smell that doesn't belong anywhere food is sold. There was a counter, a dusty rack of expired snacks, and a few fridges humming in the back with broken lights inside. But no one behind the counter. No one in sight. I called out, "Hello," trying not to sound nervous. No answer. I stood there unsure. Should I just leave? Then, from the back, I heard a soft shuffle, followed by footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Someone was there. A man emerged, and let me tell you, I've never forgotten his face. Late 50s, maybe older. Thin, unblinking eyes. Pale skin that looked like it hadn't seen daylight in weeks. His uniform shirt had a name patch, Rick stitched in red thread. But it was the way he looked at me, like he knew me, like he'd been waiting for me. He didn't say anything for a long moment, just stood behind the counter, staring. Then, without a word, he pressed a button under the counter. The pump outside clicked to life. No greeting, no smile. Just that. I nodded awkwardly, said, "Thanks," and turned to leave. But as I stepped back through the doorway, "I swear to you," I heard him say, softly, "You're lucky tonight." I froze. Turned around. "What did you say?" He just stared at me. I walked back to my car, and that's when I saw it. Another car. There hadn't been any other vehicles when I pulled in. I would have noticed. But now, sitting on the far side of the lot, partially hidden behind the building, was a black SUV. No lights on. No sound. But I could feel someone inside watching me. I started pumping gas, eyes darting between the pump and that SUV. My hands were shaking. I kept telling myself, "You're just tired. You're letting your imagination run wild." Then I heard something metallic hit the ground behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The store was dark now. The lights inside, off. The open sign gone. I hadn't even heard the door close. I dropped the pump before it clicked full and jumped in my car. The engine struggled for half a second before turning over, and I slammed it into drive. As I pulled out of the lot, I looked in the rearview mirror. The SUV's headlights blinked on. My heart stopped. I floored it back onto the highway. The SUV didn't move for a few seconds, then it followed. Fast. I was going 80, then 90, and it stayed behind me. No license plate on the front. Windows tinted pitch black. I couldn't see who was driving. And they didn't flash their lights or try to pass. Just tailed me mile after mile. I took the next exit without signaling. They followed. I cut through a gas station, another one, this one well lit. Busy even at that hour. I thought maybe they'd stop. Maybe they'd back off if I wasn't alone. They didn't. I ran 2 red lights, my breath coming in short gasps. I didn't know where I was anymore. I just drove. Somehow, after maybe 15 minutes of frantic turns, I lost them. Or they let me go. I pulled into a 24-hour diner, parked in the front, under the lights, right next to the window. I went inside, ordered a coffee with shaking hands, and sat there for nearly an hour, watching the parking lot. Nothing. Eventually, I drove home, eyes flicking to the mirror the entire time. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. And for weeks, I kept waking up thinking I heard something in the driveway. A car engine idling. A door shutting. I called the station the next day to report what happened. Guess what? The number was disconnected. I tried looking it up online. The address showed an abandoned lot. Satellite image from just a year before showed a building, but it was boarded up. Condemned. I drove past it a week later in daylight. Nothing there but a chain-link fence, crumbling concrete, and a "No trespassing" sign. I can't explain it. I don't want to explain it. Maybe it was some kind of trap. Maybe that station was just a front for something worse. Human trafficking. Organ harvesting. God knows what else. Or maybe it was something deeper than that. Something darker. All I know is this. Something terrible waited at that gas station. Something human, or maybe not quite human. And I walked right into its mouth. I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I hadn't left when I did. If I had gone into that store 2 minutes later. If I had tried to use the bathroom. If I hadn't stopped pumping early. If I had asked Rick what he meant by "you're lucky tonight." I think about the SUV. About how long it was sitting there. About how it knew I'd be there. You can call it paranoia. You can say I was sleep-deprived and seeing things. But I know what I felt. I know the cold sweat. The racing heart. The animal part of me that screamed run before my brain even caught up. You don't forget a night like that. So if you ever find yourself driving alone past midnight, with low gas and no one around for miles, remember what I'm telling you. Don't stop at a gas station after midnight. Even if the lights are on. Even if it looks open. Even if someone smiles and tells you it's okay. Because it might not be. And sometimes there's no second chance.